Yo, what is up guys, Elbiskin here, and welcome to the first pre-release primer for Ravnica Allegiance. Today we're going to be covering the Gruul Guild, and this is going to be a reminder, I have never said this is specifically a guide for the pre-release, and this will in no way be all-encompassing. I will only be covering the very, very basic mechanics and some examples of some of the cards in the Gruul Guild, so that you can just get a little snapshot of what it's about, what it can do in the format, and if you want to pick it or not. So Gruul is going to be the one that I will be playing in the pre-release this weekend, so obviously I'm doing it first because I'm excited for it. And so yeah, Gruul's mechanic for Ravnica Allegiance is Riot. Riot is a thing that applies to creatures, and a creature with Riot enters the battlefield with the player's choice of a +1/+1 counter or haste. So it's very versatile in the fact that it allows you to press advantages or play defense, which is either are things that green and red can do, and it'll allow you to kind of decide based on the situation, which green and red actually isn't like a very versatile thing. Like it's just Gruul, you just throw creatures at people. That's just what Gruul does. So Riot kind of allows you to kind of game plan a little bit with that. So now we're going to go over some of the cards that Gruul can do, like Gruul has in this set that you can pull. I will tell you everything about the card, what its rarity is, and stuff like that. So we're going to start off with Skargan Hellkite. Skargan Hellkite is printed at Mythic. It is a 4/4 dragon with Riot, so it can either be a 5/5 dragon or a 4/4 with haste or 5 mana. It has flying, obviously. And you can pay 3 and red, and Skargan Hellkite will deal 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. However, you can only activate this ability for Skargan Hellkite if it has a +1/+1 counter on it. So only if you choose that mode will you be able to get a +1/+1 counter on Skargan Hellkite and allow it to do its ability. Also, I apologize for the background noise. I live right next to the street. It's really loud. So Skargan Hellkite is very good in the fact that it is one of the few things in this set that will allow you to deal with flyers, because I mean, other than like some of the green spells that will also deal with, I don't think there's a whole lot of reach creatures in this set. In fact, I don't think there's any. I could be wrong about that. So Skargan Hellkite will allow you to kind of counteract a lot of the white-black flyers in Orzhov that we will talk about another day. Zertog Goblin. Zertog Goblin is actually, one of my favorite cards in this set. I don't know why. It is printed at uncommon. It is a 2/2 for a red and a green with Riot. So, but what that means is if you decide to give it haste and you go first, that's a free 2 damage. If you give it a +1/+1 counter, maybe if you're going second or something, that's a nice blocker that will lock down your opponents in any way, shape, or form, and will just stop them from doing anything, really, until they can find a way to get around it, over it, through it. Yeah. So that's a really nice card. That's a really nice early game play. Next up, we have an enchantment that I want to discuss before I go over some of the other Riot cards. The enchantment is Rhythm of the Wild. Rhythm of the Wild states that creature spells you control cannot be countered. It costs 3 mana to use, and it is printed at uncommon. And non-token creatures you control have Riot. Gruul just hates it when people can, because if you spend like 7 mana to cast like a giant 7/7, like your Gaspark Twins and Standard and stuff like that, it really sucks when someone plays a counter spell, even casually. But one thing that I am thinking about, and this was something that I've been researching, and please leave in the comments if you know the answer to this question: are multiple instances of Riot redundant? Can I play Rhythm of the Wild and drop my Zertal Goblin on turn 4? And can I get either 2+1/+1 counters or a +1/+1 counter in haste, or can I only have one instance of Riot? That's something that I want to know, and that's something that if you could pull multiple of these enchantments, which is very possible considering it's printed at uncommon, is that something that you can abuse, really? Because that's just something that can blow games wide open if you can just pump creatures instantly. Burning Tree Vandal. This is a very good one. It's a 2/1 for 3, which is not bad. It has Riot, obviously, as most of the cards in this set do. But whenever it attacks, you can loot. So you can discard and draw a card. That, even if I drop that on turn 3 and it's going to immediately die, but I get a creature out of it, I get to destroy an opponent's creature, essentially, and loot off of one attack, that's bonus for me. That's a plus for me, because I can then discard a card I don't need and draw a card and hopefully kind of get through my deck and get what I need. So that's what I think Burning Tree Vandal is at. Burning Tree Vandal is printed at common. Now we have the Planeswalker of the deck. This is something that I've wanted to highlight it early on as well. Domri Chaosbringer is a 5 loyalty Planeswalker for 4, as they normally are. Its +1 is you can add a red or a green to your mana pool, and if that mana is spent on a creature spell, that creature gains Riot. Again, the whole multiple instances of Riot thing, that is something that I want to look at. Its -3 is you can look at the top 4 cards of your library, and you can reveal up to 2 creature cards from among them and put them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom. That is a very nice -3 to have, because that, once again, will allow me to just decide things that I want for my deck and allow me to kind of game plan by throwing 2 creatures. This is going to be a very creature-heavy deck. I don't imagine you'll want to run more than a couple removal spells off of red, because Rakdos has that, or green. And that's really it. So if you whiff, that's very unlucky. And -8 is you get an emblem with, at the beginning of each end step, you get a 4/4 Gruul-colored beast creature token with trample. So that's just kind of game over. But yeah, so Domri is printed at Mythic, and I don't think it will actually be that big of a Planeswalker in the standard format, but for the purposes of winning your pre-release, Domri is a must, hopefully, chase card for you. Next up is a very good card, again printed at common, is Rampaging Rhino. Is a 4/4 with Riot for 5 mana. But this is a creature where, especially on turn 4, if my opponent has missed a creature drop, giving it haste will allow me to really start to dial up the pressure and get some damage in. So that's why I really liked this card and wanted to highlight it at. And it's printed at common, so I could get a lot of them, hopefully. Hopefully like 2 or 3 in my pre-release packs. And here's another very, very good one. This is one where you want to pick the +1/+1 counter, in my opinion. Gore Clan Wrecker is a 2/2 with Riot and Menace for 4 mana, which will turn into a 3/3 with Menace. This card is essentially going to get a lot of pressure off of your creatures. It's going to protect your creatures, because if he attacks, you're either getting in with damage or your opponent has to put 2 creatures on it. So the whole point of your deck in the pre-release should be, I'm going to flood the board with creatures and then just swing everything and win, because you don't have enough blockers to block them. That's kind of the win con of your pre-release deck, or what, in my opinion, it will end up being. Next, we have a very good card. This is one of the few cards without Riot. Sunder Shaman, which is printed at uncommon. It is a 5/5 for red, green, cannot be blocked by more than 1 creature, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, destroy target artifact or enchantment that player controls. A lot of the enchantments in this pre-release are actually very, very good, especially the Orzhov one, and the Rakdos one, honestly, too. Those are both very, very good enchantments, and if you can swing with Sunder Shaman, your opponent's essentially going to have to sack a creature, because very few other resources, very few other guilds have 5/5s like this, and so, and if so, they're going to be really expensive because they're going to have interesting other triggers. There's not going to be a whole lot of vanilla like 5/5s that can play for 5 mana. So your opponent's going to have to give up a big investment to kill it, and decide if that's worth keeping an enchantment. Next up is the instant and sorcery of the deck that I want to highlight. It is Thrash Threat. It is one of those split cards. Thrash says target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Again, if I put a +1/+1 counter on something on turn 3 and get a 3 mana, then I can use Thrash, blow something up, and then swing. And that's just a lot of advantage right off the bat and very good tempo control. Or Threat. For 4 mana, you can get a 4/4 red and green beast creature with trample. So that's just kind of a decision you have to make if you're desperate to get a creature on board and stuff like that. And I think most of the time you want to choose Thrash just because it's a very nice 2 mana removal spell because, I mean, obviously you're not going to play it if it's not going to work. Or you can also play it at instant speed and just swing and your opponent's going to be like, I'll block. And then you get in on that. Wrecking Beast, also a very good card, is a 6/6 with Trample and Riot for 7. So a lot of... I do really appreciate how Wizard of the Coast did balance Gruul by not making this a 7/7 with Trample and Riot, because if I get an 8/8 with Trample in this set, I pretty much win the game. And so I think even though it's 1 less power, it'll work. And it's very good and useful. Last but not least, the last card that I want to highlight in this deck for now is Gruul Spellbreaker. It is a 3/3 Riot Trample for 3. So that's very good. That's a very good card. It is printed at Rare. Oh, and I forgot to say that Wrecking Beast is printed at Common. So you're pretty much definitely going to pull one of those. And as long as it is your turn, you and Gruul Spellbreaker have Hexproof. So that's going to also protect you from things like a game-ending like Lightning Strike or whatever the red instant is in this set. So Gruul Spellbreaker is kind of just good to protect you. Maybe you don't necessarily want to swing with it, but you could leave it back for a blocker as a 4/4, or swing with it to end the game. So that is it for the cards on Gruul Spellbreaker. So what can you do with the Gruul Guild decks? Your deck is going to want to be extremely creature heavy, and you're going to want to be able to utilize that Riot mechanic to your benefit. Now, the guilds that you can splash with this, you can splash black to add Rakdos to really just... I personally would do that. I just like the Rakdos cards in general, and I think if you can get some of the Rakdos cards and just kind of use that to play some control and add some control to your just raw creature deck that would be very nice. Also, a very unique mechanic is you can splash blue with your green to play Simic as well. And a lot of the Simic creatures have things that interact with +1/+1 counters. So if you can get an enchantment and get a +1/+1 counter on those creatures, or it can interact with creatures that already have +1/+1 counters on them via Riot. And so I think that is a very unique thing that you could do. So yeah, that is the basis of the Gruul deck. If you have any questions, I am always open. Just feel free to throw something in the comment. And yeah, hopefully this was informative enough to make your decision. I will be doing the Orzhov guild tomorrow, so look out for that video as well. And yeah, happy planeswalking.